last happened in 1415, which, if you happen to be a major liberal media grandee, is more than 100 years ago. Pope Benedict has resigned. He claims he no longer has the physical or mental health to continue as the Bishop of Rome. As of February 28th, the See of Rome will be vacant and a new conclave will be called, and once again the Catholic world will wait breathless for the wisps of white smoke that indicate his successor has been found. Joining me now to discuss the ramifications of this remarkable act are my Trifecta partners, Steve Green and Scott Ott. Welcome, lads. Well, gentlemen, to call this move historic is to understate the case somewhat. In 1415, Pope Gregory XII abdicated, but that was to end a dispute with a rival to the papacy. Before that, Celestine V willingly resigned. It was called the Great Refusal, and it was widely condemned. Dante mocked his decision in his Inferno. Now, Scott, historically, the Pope serves for the duration of his life. Benedict's wildly popular predecessor, John Paul II, remarked, "You cannot come down from the cross." Now, I know you're not a Catholic, Scott, but as a deeply religious man, can you see anything disturbing in this decision to step down?
Quite the contrary. I think there's something incredibly humanizing, I guess is the best word for it. There is a tendency that humans have, and I don't blame this on the Pope, that people want to exalt other people. We like to lift up a leader so that we can look up to them. We like to attribute to them characteristics that we lack. We like to purge them of the sinful nature that we see so clearly in ourselves. And we like to put them up literally on a podium. And this guy has lived for 8 years on that throne that we've placed him on. And the fact that he is humbling himself and saying, look, I'm a man, I'm weak, I cannot do the job. I need to step away so that somebody else can get in here and do the job that needs to be done here. Forgive the expression, but I think that's a very Christ-like thing to do.
That's very well said. Yeah, Steve, one of the practical reasons that popes traditionally served until they died was because there was a fear that ex-popes could spread division in the church. Do you think there's any chance we could talk Jimmy Carter into converting to Catholicism?
I'm sorry. I usually have a chance to read the questions before we do these. Oh, wow. You caught me. You know what? You can take Bill Ayers and put him in a coat and tie and call him an education reformer, but he's still a terrorist, okay? You can take Jimmy Carter, you can call him a Catholic, you can call him whatever you want, but he's still the malaise guy who encouraged the Soviets just by his being lackadaisical into invading Afghanistan and getting involved in Africa and Central America and all the rest. Just a total incompetent failure. So of course, he is entitled to lecture the rest of us now that he is a disgraced ex-president.
Well, Scotty, there's talk about a black pope coming next or an Asian pope. Now, Benedict was known as a staunch theological conservative. I'm not asking you to speculate about a successor, but is there a danger, do you think, that by electing a very liberal pope, the Catholic Church will follow the path of the Church of England, whose social liberalism seems to have utterly decimated their membership?
Well, the one thing that seems to have been relatively consistent, at least in recent years, over the last couple of decades, is the clear voice coming from the Vatican for the morality that is taught in the Bible. And if they lose that voice, if that voice gives in to the culture, if that voice caves to political correctness and says, look, it's more important that we try to figure out a way to make ourselves appealing to the culture than it is that we be a clarion call back to God, I think they'll make a tremendous mistake. I'm hopeful that they won't do that. But I think that that's always a risk if you're trying to reach people, for example, with the gospel, that you adopt their ways so thoroughly that you become just one of them.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, Steve, John Paul II, his predecessor, was 58 when he was elected Pope. Benedict was 20 years older than that when he assumed the papacy. Now, Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden are both clamoring already to succeed Obama as the Democratic standard bearers in 2016. You think they have a chance? And do you think they'll learn anything from this remarkable act on the part of Pope Benedict?
Well, you know what? It is a remarkable act, and I just want to say, I should have said this in my first answer. You're just too busy laughing, though. Yeah, I'm not Catholic, but you have to respect any institution that has survived and prospered for 2 millennia. That's a remarkable achievement, and done a heck of a lot of good along the way. But I wrote about this yesterday. I'm reminded of a Robert Ludlum book. It was actually a kind of an action comedy that he originally published under a pseudonym. I can't remember that name, but the book was called The Road to Gandolfo. And in it, this ex-U.S. Army officer decides to kidnap the Pope with the intention of collecting $1 from each and every Catholic in the world. $400 million at the time, huge ransom. But the Pope decides, being taken away from all the pressures of Rome and the office, that he kind of likes being in the hills of Italy, and the book ends with him putting his feet up and staying kidnapped by choice. And, you know, our public servants, we don't have to agree with everything they do. In fact, we can kind of despise them. But I wish they'd take that example and, after serving a few years, just kick back, put your feet up. I think you'll do us all a favor, and you do yourself some good, too.
Well, let's see. Cincinnatus, Celestine V, George Washington, and now Benedict. That's a pretty select club. There are a few other lesser-known examples. Calvin Coolidge comes to mind. But the number of people who willingly walk away from enormous power is very, very small compared to the number of people who seek it. And this seems to be the root of the problem, doesn't it? You know, the people who crave the power are desperate just to obtain it at any cost, and therefore they're not really fit to wield it. And yet, those who can be safely entrusted with great power do not seek it, and they do not keep it. Now, these Frodos are rare and precious examples. I wish Joseph Ratzinger, formerly Pope Benedict, as much peace as he can find on his time left on this earth. In my mind, he's earned his reward in this life and in the next one. For PJTV, I'm Bill Woodall.